Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, your sweatbox torture chamber of broken cars. Last we left off, we were back in the garage for the first time in 8 months. And, well, let's just say entropy got the best of us. And there's quite a bit to do on the Prelude. There's quite a bit to do on the Miata. And in fact, as we're going to find out soon, there's some things going on with the Jeep, too. So let's first talk about the Miata. So the Miata we're kind of treating as a several months long project at this point. That's kind of what it started out as, but it's been several years now. So, you know, maybe it's a lifetime project. Maybe I'll just be working on this little shit box for the rest of my life. But we needed some seals for the banjo bolt that goes over the steering rack. I tried to match up the old seals with something I bought from AutoZone, and they were just too small, and I leaked out all of my transmission fluid. So I figured if I was going to leak out all of my transmission fluid, I'm going to go ahead and replace the pump. The seals and the pump are in. We're going to get to that as soon as things clear up on this side of the garage. Over here on the Prelude, we were waiting on a hose between the clutch reservoir and the master cylinder. It's a low pressure hose that had started to leak. I found a replacement. I got that in. We're also dealing with some electrical gremlins. In our last video, we had ended up replacing the battery because I saw some evidence of shorting at the battery terminals, and as well as a bad fuse between the battery and the front of the car. I was also running through fuses on my primary radiator fan. So now I got the battery. I think the bad battery situation is sorted out. But I still think I need to do something about those blown fuses. I think as soon as I get this car back out on the road, it's just going to overheat again. So let's upgrade the wires that go from the fuse box to the fan, and then hopefully I can stop running through fuses. But before we do that, I have to take the Jeep across town, and I really want to get an oil change in before I do that. It is hot, and I have just been abusing this Jeep all year, so let's do a little, at least a bare minimum amount of maintenance on this thing so that it doesn't fall apart on the road picking up this window. I have to go pick up the last window for my rental house. I was not expecting to get that in. It is in and ready to go. So I have to go pick it up in 2 days so that it can be installed the next day. So let's get this Jeep in, and we could take a look at some of the things that are wrong with it, and we'll go from there. All right, we got the Jeep in the garage. Let's start on the inside so you can really get a good sense for just how broken this Jeep is right now. Again, I have been just abusing it for the past 8 months, building my house over there. On the inside here, you can see him. I stopped caring about the head unit. Over here, we've got no climate control. Nothing works at all. So that's cool. Also, the headlight. Notice I'm turning the headlights on, and okay, so this is fully on. There's no headlights. In order to turn my headlights on, I have to, so that's the fog lights. I have to get it just right. No, 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 still the fog lights. There we go. Yeah, so this switch is broken. Not only does the climate control not work at all, but the air conditioning did not blow cold even when it did work. The heater doesn't work at all because my heater core is clogged. But this whole dashboard is going to have to come out in order to get at the HVAC box. So this is going to be a great project, just not for today. Aside from that, it's been mostly pretty reliable, like surprisingly strong. Underneath the hood, I have had little bits of overheating. I think I'm just actually losing coolant under pressure because when I opened this, it was just a little bit low. And when I topped it off, I stopped overheating. In fact, I don't really overheat. It does get warm up to about the halfway line, which really isn't quite overheating. And with this triple core radiator, it's pretty stout, so it's not a whole lot to worry about, but it is something I'm going to keep an eye on. I don't remember ever changing the air filter, so maybe I might want to do that. I do need an electrical tune-up. Not going to do that now. Really, all we're going to do today is an oil change. We're going to check to make sure all of the fluids are topped off, and that is really it. I just have to get across town. I'm driving this less and less now that my house projects are kind of winding down a little bit, but I'm also going to need to rely on it a little bit if I'm taking the Prelude off the road for any amount of time, because the Prelude is my most reliable vehicle, even though it's overheating. I swear, the summer in Southern California is just brutal, absolutely brutal on my poor cars. Every summer, I either lose a battery or something overheats, which is why I rebuilt the car last year. Yeah, it's just really tough. And I think the Jeep is up next for major work. And then once I'm done with the oil change, we're going to circle back to this Miata and get this power steering back together. Okay, let's do a little comparison. On the left is the used oil for the Prelude. On the right is the used oil from the Jeep. We're just going to get one of these dirty towels here and get a little splash on the towel. So you see here on the left, the Prelude, it was ready, but you know, not nearly as bad as the Jeep, and that's really because of just how hard I worked the Jeep during that remodel project, towing trailers and going across town, you know, sometimes multiple times in a day, picking up materials and stuff. So I did put a lot more miles on the Jeep, and they were a lot more punishing miles. So now that that's done, I'm going to take these over to AutoZone to get recycled, because I'm not a barbarian, despite the way I look. I actually give a damn about some things, one of those things being the planet we live on. So that's it for the work I'm going to do right now. Before I roll this thing off, we're going to do a little bit more discovery, just so that I can plan for things to come. I've already popped this radiator cap and coolant came spilling out, so that's actually kind of a good sign. I probably could stand to do an electrical tune-up. The last time I did an electrical tune-up on this was close to 10 years ago when I bought it. I've had it this for about 10 years, so it's due. It'll be a better vehicle if I do that work. And lastly, I've got a lot of suspension work, a lot of bushing, squeaking, lots of banging that when I hit bumps. But the problem is that this thing is so high up off the ground, I can't really work with it with my jack. It's really hard. So we'll see how the rest of this year plays out. If I can get a lift in here at some point in the next year, we will do the suspension here with the lift. If I can't, I might have to pay for it. I'm now taking a look at this fan system, and the reason why my fuses keep blowing, and because I cooked the relay, well, the reason I cooked the relay is because I used a fuse that was too big. But I keep blowing fuses because these fans need more power than these dinky little wires can supply. So I need to upgrade the wires a little bit. This 14 gauge is actually what is coming out of the fan, but it is getting power from this 14 or 16 gauge wire back here that's coming from this fuse box. So I think that's why this fuse keeps blowing, because this is just not giving it enough power. So I had this little bit of stroke of genius. I don't know if it's genius or idiocy, it's probably the latter. That I'm going to install another box. I'm just going to install another box. Because I don't want to cut up the original box. I don't want to cut up the original wiring harnesses and all that stuff. But I do need something that I can start adding circuits to this car in a way that's clean, because I've also got this trunk popper back here with an inline fuse. I've also got a stereo with like an inline fuse. You know, I got all these stuff with just fuses just randomly scattered all over the car. And if I can put it all in a central place that is waterproof and nicely protected and everything, it's gonna be really cool. So I'm gonna run the output, which is this wire, into a new pair of relays. That pair of relays are going to be two 30 to 40 amp relays. We're going to take a look at them right now. That's going to run the trigger. And that relay is just going to, you know, draw straight from, I guess from here, I can branch off of this distribution block. It looks like I can even branch off of just right here if I really wanted to. I have some options as to where I'm going to get this extra power, but I'm just going to have that whole circuit rewired in a new box. And this thing here, really it would become obsolete, because I wouldn't need to wire both of, I wouldn't need to jump this together to have both fans running if I just use the primary fan, which is always going to be on, as my trigger. So I could just clip this and get rid of it and run new wires for these out to these fans, and everything should be just fine. Let's go take a look at the box itself. The fuse box itself, first of all, let me just say this thing totally exceeded expectations, because not only do we have this nice waterproof fuse box right here, but we have everything that you need to wire it up. Like, and all of the fuses, 5-post fuses, so that you can have really any setup you need with this box. It comes with everything you need to make maximum use of this box, which is kind of awesome, because now I can customize it however I need to, and I don't have to run out to the store to get more stuff. It even comes with, check this out, even comes with fuses. Like, so I don't have to go to the salvage yard and steal fuses. Really cool. So I'm going to get started wiring this up so that I can get kind of a better idea of where these wires are going to go. I'm going to just run like a pigtail out to, like, you know, from here out to like here for whatever I'm going to need. And then I can come up with a new I can come up with a harness solution or something that I can plug things into and just kind of make it modular so that you can swap out parts without cutting more and more into the system. So yeah, let's just get started with this. Before we talk about all of the mistakes I made getting to this point, there were a lot of them, let's take a look at my mock-up. So this is kind of a dry fit. Once I got the box itself figured out, I thought, hey, how am I going to mount this thing in the car? And I think I can work with this. Look at the filter, just barely sticks out a little bit over the hood line. I think I can move the box back just a little bit. Put that down here. I think I can move this box just to the right, just enough to get this filter to clear and come down a little bit more. Although, when I feel it, it's kind of touching the top. So really, let's just see if we can close the hood. That'll be the real test. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Closes perfect. Oh, did I ever get lucky there? Or that was skill. I'm not going to say that was skill. I don't have skill. We can pretend it was skill. You can see here I've reinstalled the original battery tray, and that's actually what this thing is going to mount to. Here on the right here, we're going to use the factory bolt holes to mount the left side of the box. Over here on the right, we're going to make new holes. And that's why I wanted to bring the battery box back into the equation, because it gives me more space to mount things. I can also do things like zip tie this harness up and secure these two relays a little bit better, and just gives me more places to mount things that don't require me to drill into the body of the car, because that's the last thing I want to do. Let's open up the box. All right, so we have the box over here at the workbench. First thing you'll see here is that I've got the roadkill zip tie trick to kind of sort out these wires, and I think that's going to work out really well. So these are the battery leads. These go straight to battery. This is the trigger wire. The trigger wire is going to be this over here. This is the main fan load wire is going to be our trigger. So the old main fan load wire is going to be our new trigger. And this blue is the new load side for the fan circuit. And then these are the grounds. So it's going to run out. This is going to be one fan. This is going to be another fan. These two will just join together. And actually, I'm going to run these up to the old fuse box to connect where we're going to branch off of this connection right here. We're just going to run a new, an additional cable out from there. That will be, I don't know if it'll be permanent per se, but that will be kind of what we do. And we could just scale that up going from there. You can see here we have a big fat cable. So if I really wanted to, I could put another distribution block somewhere. I'm just not quite there yet. We're here in the fuse box itself. We only have 2 relays and, well, 1 fuse. Apparently, I can only find 1 30 amp. So until I get another 30 amp, well, I'm only going to have 1 working fan, which is kind of the problem I started with. Anyway, I just need to get a 30 amp fuse. I've got a 35 in this baggie, but really don't want to use it. I really don't want to just get 2 30s. These are 30 or 40 amp relays. So these will be really great to see in action once I get this other fuse. And I've got all this other space for additional circuits because I'm probably going to use them. So a little bit of embarrassment here. When I first wired this up, I actually wired this up twice. The first time was with none of these little rubber things. I don't know why. That's kind of like half the reason I bought this damn thing was that it was waterproof. But yeah, the first time around, I completely ignored the whole waterproofing part of it. So I had to rip this all apart and put it back together. So some of the terminal connections, I mean, they're connected really great, but some of the little, I had to stick a pick in here. Actually broke my test light pushing the connectors back out. So I did that like 5-6 times because I'm a complete dummy and apparently I have no idea what I'm doing. But I got that figured out. All I need is a fuse now. So that doesn't really concern me yet. The next thing I want to do, I have a plan to mount this. Now I need a plan for completing these circuits. So that's really what I'm up against next. I'm going to I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and drill the holes in the battery tray. We're going to get this back together, mark off where I want to drill the holes in the battery tray, secure this thing in so that I can start running these wires. Because really, I'm kind of done screwing with this thing for now until I'm ready to add more circuits. So let's just go ahead and permanently mount this thing, and then we're going to figure out these circuits. I got the battery tray in. I got the box mounted on. It is nice and tight. This black wire is the ground for the original primary fan. Probably can get rid of that entirely. This, I was going to plug it in to this wire over here, but I started to think, well, wait a minute. If I have to take this box out, I have to start clipping all these wires, and I can't take this box completely out. Unlike this box where it's like all nice and modular and you can unplug things. So check this out. I made my own harness. I did this inside because it is really, really hot out here. So I would not have had the patience to get this done, especially done so well. So I decided to just make a pigtail on the other side, and I can trim them or extend them however I need to over here. But on this side, I have got a nice plug so that now if I remove the extra fuse box. Everything I have on this circuit, which is these two fans, the power, the load side, the ground side, and the switch are all in this harness, and the colors match on the other side, which is super cool. It came in a kit. We're really there's no instructions or anything. You just kind of have to figure it out. I am really happy with this. It's a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. This is not something I would do on a car I don't care about. But I care about the Prelude. The Prelude deserves it. So, in fact, I got single connector. I got a single connector kit just like this for these oxygen sensors. I'm going to replace this because this really, well, it'll work. It's just not as good as it can be. So let's get this in the car, and I can start connecting these wires one by one. All right, well, this is very temporary, so excuse the mess. You see here the switch wire is just twisted together. I am waiting on a single pin connector that I'm going to use also on the O2 sensors. I got a pack of like 9 or 10, so I'll have enough for one of those. Also, this is kind of ghetto rigged because, well, I used a yellow ring connector, and then I realized it was too long. And then I clipped the wire and then realized that was my last yellow ring connector. So I recrimped it using the cheap plastic butt ends. And so when I get a new ring connector, I will just clip it back here and run it there. I'm also waiting on gonna get a ring connector, blue ring connector for this ground here. I initially had this all wired together, and then I realized I had made a fatal flaw. I ran the ground from the relay straight to the ground from the fan. That's not going to do anything. So I split that ground wire right here, coming out here, split it, and ran the relay ground over here and the fan ground over here. So we're going to give this a try. Hopefully this works. We've got 30 amp fuses on 40 amp max load relays. So let's give this a shot before I get eaten by flies. We've got fans, and I am hearing harmonic resonance. That's going, and that's good. All right. This is going to work. All right, so all I have to do now is really just clean this up. I found a ground location. I just need yellow ring terminals. I may get some double pin connectors for over here and just get rid of this red wire, because it is really nice to see the correct color codes that I've laid out across the car. That's actually really nice, and it would eliminate one of these connectors, butt connectors that I have going on here. I have butt connectors here, which I could eliminate also if I were to run new pins in here. I just don't think I want to do it. I think I'm okay with this. You know, it's not ideal, but you know, it's the world we live in, and the world we live in is not ideal. So I can wrap this all up and at least make it look really nice, and I fully intend to do that. So that's coming up next. Let's, but once this comes in, once these parts come in, we'll get this all wrapped up. Well, I thought about what I said, and, you know, I'm going to update my stance on this. No, we don't live in a perfect world, but at the same time, I want to take every opportunity I can to make things a little bit better. So, I replaced these connectors. I replaced the ground wires for these fans. I'm going to pull this 10mm N extension out from under the hood of my car. And I really cleaned this up as much as I possibly could. and tucked it away all nice and just tried to make it look a little more professional. I really also wanted a blue wire running all the way through from here all the way into the box. I'm not exactly sure why, because you can't see any of it, but you know, that's where we're at. The one wire I did not replace that was crimped and extended needlessly was the ground wire for the relays. And that is because in order to replace that wire, I would have had to rip apart everything up to the harness itself. So I didn't want to replace the harness entirely, and I would have had to do that in order to replace that wire. So the ground wire that comes out of this harness over here has one extra crimp on it, but again, you don't see it because it's all wrapped in this conduit, which is really cool. I'm really happy with the way this looks. It works right. I think we're good to go with this car. I am going to call this done, at least for this week. If I fixed it, you won't see another video about my Prelude next week. If I did not fix it, you will see a video about my Prelude next week. Before we go, let's check in on the Miata, because I did get some things done. So I got all of the parts in, and I went ahead and threw them in because I was kind of waiting on some stuff for the Prelude. So you see just between the header and the fluid line there, way down there, I replaced the seals for the banjo bolt. It is dry down there. It is nice and dry. It is not leaking anymore. I obviously installed the new power steering pump. I got the belt on and got the car started up, filled the reservoir, turned the wheels back and forth about 20-30 times, and I am not leaking power steering fluid yet, which is really good. The next step would be to put this thing on the ground, turn the wheels back and forth on the ground, move it around in the garage a little bit so that maybe I can make it a little bit easier to work on in the future. And there's one last thing that I did on this Miata, and that is this wire here. You'll notice it's just grounded to the valve cover. This was supposed to go to the fan switch on the water jacket there, but the connector broke off, and the little ghetto rig that I had was not holding. To replace that connector would have cost me $30, whereas if I just ground it here, it just runs the fans constant. And considering my experience with the Prelude, I want the fans running constant. So I just grounded it, and it's going to stay like that, and I'm happy with it just like that. So we're going to move on with the Miata to the next project, and that will likely be something that we see coming up in the near future. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what I did, give me a like, share, subscribe, and whatnot. If you don't like what I did, like maybe you're a Prelude purist and you hate everything that isn't OEM original, go ahead and drop a comment, because the comments will still feed the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.